Hi everyone, this is your Capricorn reading for August 15th through the 31st, 2018, and I'm Valerie with Serenity Matters 1111. Thank you for joining my channel. I have shuffled the cards already, and I'll go ahead and lay those out, but just a reminder that this is a generalized reading and may not apply to everyone. So I hope you are having a great month of August, enjoying your summer. So what's covering you, Capricorn, is the moon. What's crossing you is the Five of Cups. Crowning you is the Two of Swords. Beneath you is the Eight of Wands in reverse. Nine of Wands is behind you. Before you is the Queen of Wands. The card representing you is the Two of Pentacles. The environment is the Justice card. The Eight of Swords is the Hopes and Fears card. And the future card, the final outcome, is the Wheel of the Year in reverse. Now, looking at the bottom of the deck, we see here the Shadow Side card in the reverse. I hope we can see this clearly. It looks dark in here to me. Sorry about that. So we have the Shadow Side in reverse. In the upright, the Shadow Side is about facing our ego. Facing the parts of ourselves that we disavow, that we disown. The parts of ourselves that we do not feel proud of. It's about looking at the things that we tend to want to hide from ourselves and other people. But understanding our shadow side is important for understanding the wholeness of us. Every person has a shadow side. Some people are better at hiding it than others. Some people are better at controlling it than other people. It just really depends. But one of the things that the shadow side teaches us is that in order for true self-acceptance to occur, we have to be willing to look at the parts of ourselves that we don't like. In fact, it's only when we accept these parts of ourselves and we recognize them for what they are, with an unapologetic, unabashed, honest frame of reference, only then can we really understand what that is and be able to, I guess, master that. Master our impulses that may be self-destructive in nature, that may be ego-driven. A great deal of people I see in my practice, they have negative situations in their lives for reasons they can't control. But the most problems that they face, that they actually have a great deal of control over, are the things that are ego-based, the things that stem from their shadow side. Everything from a perception based on an insecurity, a perception based on ego, those types of things, where we want to win at something regardless of whether or not it's in our best interest to win that thing that we're trying to win. But in this energy here, the shadow side in the reverse means that we may not be facing our shadows, and that maybe we need to be looking at the shadow sides of ourselves. For some, it may mean that we're coming out of that energy of self-reflection and a place of understanding. Now, we will need to dive deeper into the remaining cards that are on the table before we can really kind of get a better sense of where this plays out. So I do apologize. I have allergies on a regular basis, and I feel scratchy-throated. But, all right. Now, the card that's covering you right now is the Moon card. And the Moon is about cycles and rhythms. It's about seasons. It's about, especially lunar patterns, or 27 and a half to 28 day cycles, rhythms. The Moon has to do with, in part, the taming of our instinctual self, our baser animal nature, as represented by the wolves here. This ties in very neatly with the shadow side influence, in that there's a part of us that can go crazy. I don't mean that in a mentally ill kind of a sense, although I suppose it could be that case if we don't take care of acknowledging our shadow side and learning how to cope with those impulses. The word lunatic is related to the word lunar, which means pertaining to the moon, and that's where that word originally came from. They found that people in mental hospitals, insane asylums back in the 1800s, for example, they found that they would act up. Inmates in those places would act up during the full moon, and they believed that there was something in that relationship there. The moon can indicate a lack of clarity or a lack of understanding. Now, for some of you, if you very strongly feel the moon and connect with the moon and the energies of the moon, intuition and so forth, this moon could be a very positive influence for you. But for others of you that may feel less in touch with your intuitive side, it could be that there's deception in your life, a lack of clarity, a lack of understanding, maybe a lack of control over some of your baser impulses. Some of those impulses that we see right here reflected in the shadow side card. So let's keep going and see if we can gain some more clarity on the role of the moon in your life at this time. We did just have a new moon on the 11th of August. We did have a partial lunar eclipse. I think the moon was in Leo at the time. We had the Lion's Gate on the 8/8. We've been in Mercury retrograde. There's really a lot of planetary and lunar influences going on at this time. But not to despair, we're also spiritual beings having a physical experience. But it just may mean that we need to kind of step up our coping skills. Our meditation, doing our grounding exercises, journaling, taking baths. Things like that keep us centered in our day-to-day existence. Now, crossing you, we see the energy of the Five of Cups. And the Five of Cups is about disappointment and loss. It's about emotions having been spilled, in a sense. Think of tears, of grief, loss, frustration, anger, emotions coming out. This is somebody who's experiencing a great deal of disappointment. And one of the things that the Five of Cups teaches us is that although we need to acknowledge and process our loss, we also need to be aware of the things that we still have, the positivity that we still have. So this is a place to remind us to experience gratitude even when we're not sure what's going on, even when we feel some degree of confusion or loss, or we really feel like we're in our shadow self. Sometimes things trigger us on a day-to-day basis. We may experience disappointment in love, disappointment at our job. We may be going through some trials. Maybe the kids are getting on your nerves or driving you crazy lately. It may be the case that you're going through something like that. But the Five of Cups really reminds us that even in the midst of our emotional processing, we need to connect with our gratitude. Because when we feel gratitude for the things that we still do have that are positive, thankfully we still have the kids to drive us nuts, or we still have the job even though it's making us crazy, or we still have the relationship with that person that we love who's making us nuts. Whatever the case may be sure to find a balance. Allow yourself some time to grieve your loss, but be careful that you're also taking time out of that same day to go through your gratitude work and experience your appreciation for that. So now crowning you, this is an influence that may come into play, may be on your mind. Two of Swords energy is about a decision. It's about trying to weigh out your pros and cons, your choices, trying to make that decision. Now, we do see some pixies in the background, and so there is spiritual guidance and help for you in making this decision. This does look like a new moon, so I'm thinking that because we had the full moon over here, actually, we didn't have a full moon, but right here, we just had our new moon on the calendar, and here we've got this sliver here. I'm thinking it may not take a long time for you to really get to that place. But with the Two of Swords, it really is about, needing to make some kind of a decision. And it tends towards an intellectual decision. You'll notice that the sky is a prominent feature, and even in the water here, it's less emotional. It's very calm, very still water. It's reflecting the sky, which gives us that idea of an intellectual type decision that needs to be made. So something's on your mind. You're trying to make that decision. Your disappointment that you're experiencing on an emotional level may play a role in what you are thinking that decision is about to be. But I'm looking at this sword here, and even as she's crossing her arms in front of her chest and trying to avoid being emotional or allowing her emotions to influence her decision here, it does seem to me like one of the swords is beginning to tilt, that you're coming out of that and you're soon to be able to make a decision in whatever's on your mind. Now, the Eight of Wands for you, this card's in the reverse position. This is fiery energy right here, these wands. This is very fast-moving energy. This is about moving on to greener pastures. This is about lots of communication coming in, lots of options. Really just great forward movement for you. But in the reverse, this means that there's kind of an arresting of that forward movement. And I'm questioning if this has something to do with your mental stagnation that you're experiencing up here as you're trying to make a decision. This sense of loss that you're facing is part of that, but it may be that your emotions are clouding you, as we see the moon here. Maybe your emotions are clouding you to what you need to do here so that you can take this Eight of Wands reversed energy and turn it upright so you get that quick, fast-moving energy again. So time will tell. We'll see where this is going to go. Now, in your past tense, this is an influence that you're going through right now, or that could be in your immediate past. This is kind of the warrior energy, right? The wounded warrior who has survived the battle. The sun is setting on this battle right here. You'll see she's got these wands here as a protective, almost like a fortress walls behind her, in a sense. And the fighting has stopped for now, and she's ready to move on, or he is ready to move on. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I apologize. Sorry. Sorry. Excuse me. But in this energy, she's done with the fighting and the arguing and all the rest. And this is a person who's had to stand her ground and say no to some things. And now that she's done saying no, it may be that some of that forward-moving energy is cut off to her because of that. I feel like this might even be other people kind of being negative about her saying no, and sort of maybe giving you grief about that a little bit, or they don't want to cooperate now, and that's why you're having some kind of arrest in direction. And this disappointment, too, could be somebody around you, maybe not even yours. Maybe somebody who feels their emotions more. This is a water sign card, this Five of Cups. So that could be your Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces person. The Wands energy that you're experiencing would be parts of you that are fiery. I mean, Capricorn's an earth sign. However, Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius maybe. But I do think that this is in part you defending your ground, and maybe that's why, because you're saying no to something, it may be blocking you to another degree. So be careful that you're choosing your battles well, and that you're not saying no to things that might otherwise move you forward. Like don't be stubborn in that. Capricorn sometimes can be stubborn. Who can't? Let's get real. But be careful that that's not blocking forward movement in other directions. Now, we do see all this kind of fire energy, but in the future, coming in, we see the Queen of Wands over here, and she is the quintessential fire sign. This is your Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius person coming in. She's a person, or it could be a situation, who is passionate, in control of herself. She makes things happen. She has a love for life, a zest. She's the life of the party. She brings lots of fun. And she really is somebody that is a good person to have on your side, because she stands up for you and has your back, all the rest of that. I question, because of this Nine of Wands energy, if maybe that's not you. Then again, you may have a fire sign in your life who's been going through these battles and so on. The battles have ceased for a time, and maybe it's about conflict resolution, and that's what we're seeing. So I'm curious to know how that plays out for many of you here. The card representing you right now is the Two of Pentacles, which is earth energy. You know, again, that's your Capricorn, such as yourself, Taurus or Virgo. But this is a card representing you. This is a person who's balancing and juggling a whole bunch of different things. Multitasking. Right? Multitasking even in the face of some choppy water, which could be some emotional turbulence. Again, we did see that emotional turbulence here in the Five of Cups card. Also, we've got this air element right here. That's the sky, the clouds, they could be coming in. Some storms could be rolling in. Then again, maybe they're dissipating or blowing off. We can't really tell at this point what that is. So we do have, this earth element here, and in the coins, we have the water and the air. So that's 3 of the 5 elements, and one could argue there's fire in here too. Then we've got this figure 8, which is about eternity. So this is about you kind of showing off your skills at multitasking and being able to get things done in spite of the obstacles and the challenges that you have been facing. And in spite of the questioning and wondering what you want to do here. My suspicion is that maybe you don't want to keep up this energy indefinitely with the juggling, even though you are doing it sufficiently, and frankly, you're doing it very, very well. But this here, this indecision, and some of this might be you're weighing out what it is that you want to do, but you're looking at the practical side of that. You're looking at the financial stability in making that decision. You're also looking at the emotional and the mental elements that come into play, and neither one of these elements is really outweighing the other. Again, I point out that we have a lot of water and sky and earth here too, but again, nothing seems out of control or out of the realm of possibility. But the double duality here makes me think that there's you're giving it some really good thought, and Capricorn's a balanced, stable influence. You guys can be those partiers, and you can be completely out of balance. But those of you who are balanced in your life tend to be rock solid people. You get stuff done, and you still have a great sense of humor at the same time. Now, this Justice card is your environment card. And Justice is associated with Libra, right? Justice is ruled by the planet Venus. And Venus rules Virgo, and it rules Libra as well. But we tend to think of Justice with the scales as being Libra, because Libra, as a zodiac sign, is the scales, right? So either one of these elements could come into play. Libra is an air sign. We see the air represented here, excuse me, in the sword. Justice is about making that right decision. Now, for some of you, it could be that you're having a court case and you're experiencing some worry about that. But be careful that you're not attracting negative energy because of your worry. Sometimes we can do that too. Then again, somebody may be deceiving you in a court case. So if you have any kind of legal issue coming up, you better be careful you know who your friends are, because there's some deception going on here and you're not really sure what's going on. This battle in your background could even be, some kind of parenting issue. You're going around with that. Again, you're not really sure where this thing is going to go. In and of itself, the Justice card would indicate, because it is in the upright, it would indicate that the outcome will be fair and the right decision for the people involved. But just be careful that people aren't pulling a bunch of crap, and some of your worries and your fears may be coming into play with that. As you're concerned, and sometimes when people drag you into court, all the stuff that you didn't want to come out winds up coming out, and that can be part of the scary piece of that, right? But you do have a lot going on. You're trying to make it work. If that is the case, those of you that may have a court issue. If you don't have a court issue, this Justice most likely represents that in spite of your confusion and your conflict, whatever that is for you, you're going to be making the right decision. You'll note that Justice has no blindfold on here, the way she does in statuary at times. This is because she sees with her eyes open. She needs to see everything. She needs to see everything. Unlike the Two of Swords, where this person has a blindfold on, this Two of Swords here needs to take the blindfold off so she can see the picture more clearly. Now, the hopes and fears, for those of you with legal issues, maybe you're afraid of serving some jail time. You'll notice that this person's in some kind of a prison or a jail, or it could be probation, because she's not actually in a prison cell. It's more like the prison of her mind, or the prison of the tether, or the prison of the breathalyzer, or whatever it is that you're going through. excuse me, with the castle off in the distance. Given that this is a hopes and fears card and not necessarily a final outcome card for you, this could have something to do with that. But for those of you that aren't necessarily facing a legal decision, this is about putting yourself in a form of prison. Again, we see the blindfolds. We see she's tied. She's surrounded by these swords here. This is more about a mental imprisonment, like when you kind of think yourself into a cage, when you allow your fears to create your reality, or when you allow your pessimism or your negativity about a situation or your pain to dictate your situation. So if you fear living in that energy right there, understand that you have a choice, that you don't have to do that. Even when a person is literally bodily in prison, he or she has a choice about their attitude in the prison. Now, they can take use of their time. Some people take classes in prison or jail. Some people learn things. They complete their GED. They study. They can do things like that. They can learn a skill or a trade, a craft, what have you. If this is a metaphorical prison that you fear, it could be that you're afraid that your emotions or your thoughts or your worries, your anxiety, maybe you fear your anxiety is going to get the best of you. But let's don't forget that even though we're experiencing anxiety here, we have the Queen of Wands in the future. She's a very stable, loving, passionate person. You have justice coming in here. You have this influence of being able to juggle things, being able to balance, being able to multitask a whole bunch of things. You're likely coming out of this shadow side influence. Now, your outcome here is the Wheel of the Year in reverse. Now, this is called the Wheel of Fortune in other decks. And in the upright, it represents karma. It represents learning a lesson in a situation. It represents divine timing. Things coming in at the right timing. So in a sense, we could say that whatever the outcome is in the situation, it is just. So if this is a legal situation that you're facing, know that the outcome will be fair, but there may be a karmic debt to pay, whether it's a minor one or a major one, whatever that is. If it's not, if you're innocent, if you're facing false accusations and you're going through some kind of a child custody battle or some other kind of thing, don't worry about that, because justice will out. No one will falsely accuse you of being a bad parent or of whatever nightmare you may be facing at this point. This outcome will be positive, right? This outcome will be just and fair. If you have not done anything wrong, if you want to put it that way, you have nothing to fear. Even if you had, your sentence or whatever your charge, it will not be more than is appropriate for the situation. So whatever that is. But understand, once you complete your stuff, once you work off your karmic situation, you will be able to move on and leave this in the past, leave it behind you. You are not required to take things from your past into your future unless you choose to do so. And sometimes it's mental and we psych ourselves out. And that's why we face this kind of anxiety. We don't need to be facing anxiety of that kind. We really don't need to. Anxiety can be a choice for many people. Sometimes it is biochemical processing that occurs because of learned trauma in childhood and as our brain was developing. And that's an actual physiological process. For others of us, we learn to worry because sometimes worrying is the only kind of control that we have in a chaotic environment or world. So working through that, seeking help, seeking counsel, of different kinds as you work through your issues can be very, very helpful for many of you. But let's don't forget that, you've got some positive energy coming in here, right? This is kind of a stagnation in a situation. So it's not like whatever's going to happen is going to happen totally quickly or in a big hurry or anything like that. I mean, you do have some time to think about that. Now, in the reverse, the Wheel of the Year could be that maybe we're not learning some of our karmic lessons, some of our shadow lessons. And therefore, whatever positive things we have coming in are arrested. And that's why we have the slow-moving energy. Until we learn our karmic lessons pertaining to ego, love of others, love of self, right? Letting go of people that are negative or toxic for us, removing ourselves from situations that are negative or toxic for us. We tend to get stuck in this energy, and this could be why your blessings are not coming in for you as quickly as they might. So that's part of it. We need to be careful that we're learning our lessons. One thing I tell my clients is that, our emotions teach us who we are, what we want, what we need, what we like, what we love, what we fear, what we dread, everything. Our emotions teach us who we are. But how we think about our emotions is sometimes the only thing that we really can control. If we say, what's the learning opportunity in this? And we seek to find that learning opportunity. Hey, we don't have to make the same mistakes twice. We never have to inflict the same wounds on ourselves twice. And pain, emotional, physical, spiritual pain, is some of the quickest way for us to learn a lesson. I mean, if you slam your hand in a door, do you think you're going to do that more than once? Most of us probably not. And we're going to be careful when we have our hand near a door. We're going to watch the way we shut that door so we don't damage our hands or our fingers. And it's teaching us about the harm that creates. Any kind of emotional, physical, or mental pain is teaching us an important lesson. And the faster we learn our lessons, the more willing we are to be students of life on life's terms. The faster we can move out of this shadow side influence, leave it in our past, and accept our blessings, accept the rewards that come from being apt pupils, right? So with that in mind, I do want to encourage you to be patient with that. Again, seek help if necessary, so that you can put some of that stuff in perspective and hopefully minimize any excessive worrying. Worrying is kind of like bringing a future that may never even happen into your present tense. And then again, if something does actually happen and you've already been worrying about it, then you got to worry about it twice. So in either scenario, you are increasing your worry by 100%. So let it go. Let it go. Focused attention tasks, mindfulness, grounding, meditation, exercise. Exercise is big, but utilize your coping skills. Now, you may hear me shuffling. I'm shuffling the Animal Wise Tarot by Ted Andrews. It's a really wonderful deck, and his book gives beautiful explanations for the animals on these cards. So right now I'm asking Spirit to please help us with Capricorn for August 15th through the 31st, 2018. If there's any extra information that we might benefit from in the sense of guidance, healing, love, protection, illumination. Capricorn, August 15th through the 31st, 2018. All right. So we have the King of Ancients. And in this deck, the Ancients are the fire signs. And we did have a lot of fire signs crossing into your immediate past, immediate future, and your present tense. I will warn you before I put the card up, it is a picture of a snake, of a cobra. It is a photograph. So for those of you that have a horrible fear of snakes, you may want to turn your head. So this is a cobra. And he is the king of the ancients. And that represents swift, sudden decisions and actions. Now, I will read from the book, and it is a little bit long, but I think it's completely worth it. It's a brilliant book by Ted Andrews. In India and Sri Lanka, the cobra is sometimes referred to as the Naja or Naga. It is associated with the serpentine type of dragon, also known as a basilisk. In lore, the basilisk was very cobra-like, breathing fire and having deadly venom. It could kill with a look of its eyes, but from it, one could learn to read the inner soul of any person. Ooh, I'm thinking of that moon card right now. When Cobra appears, we can expect an awakening and heightening of our own intuitive vision, enabling us to make swift decisions and take quick actions to benefit us tremendously. Now is not a time for hesitation. Most cobras are medium-sized snakes, and when frightened or excited, they rear up. Movable ribs spread the skin behind the neck until it forms a flat hood. Anyone who comes too near the cobra in this state is likely to be bitten. When cobra appears, we should keep our senses alert. Opportunities to strike in business are very near, and we should be ready. The appearance of the cobra reflects the likelihood of unexpected opportunities. Taking advantage of them may seem impulsive to others, but we should trust our own instincts. What may be foolishly impulsive for others will be successfully impulsive for us at this time. This is further reflected in that cobras will often guard their eggs, a reminder that we must guard our endeavors until ready to act and then act upon them swiftly. Indian snake charmers try to make people believe it is the song of their flutes that caused the cobra to dance, but the cobra is actually following the movement of the flute and not the music. When cobra appears, we should be alert to subtle movements and signs. We should not be distracted by what others might say. It is a time to trust in what we perceive, regardless of appearances. If we do so, we will be in a strong position and can respond in the most beneficial manner for us. Questions to ask. Are we not acting when the opportunities present themselves? Are we acting too hastily and without thinking? Are we disorganized and not able to see all of the facts? Are we feeling uneasy? Are we being oversensitive right now, taking affront inappropriately? Are we being too distrustful? Too trustful? Do we need to protect our endeavors a little more closely? Is there a hidden poison around us, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually? You know, that last question reminds me of when we were talking about this moon and having some kind of deception energy around here, and that it could be that somebody else is not in your best interest or that is bringing some sort of argumentation or battle to you, not playing it right, and that's affecting you in terms of some potential court decision or, if you are up against that. So just be very, very careful about that. And remember, too, even though you may be in some kind of slow Eight of Wands energy and you're not sure what to do, once this energy changes and you move out of that period of stagnation into quickness, this King of Ancients here is telling you to make swift, sudden decisions and actions. So maybe while the play is going very slowly, this is where you make your decision on what you're going to do, and then when the opportunity arises, you seize it. It's kind of like when you say, I'm not happy at my job, I need to move on to my job. And so you start looking, you get your resume ready, you take your, you take your interview clothes to the cleaners, you really get all that, you go to the dentist, get your teeth cleaned, whatever, and you get yourself ready and you keep eyeing the paper, and you might eye the paper for 6 to 8 months even, or whatever period of time, and then you see that one job that you really, really get excited about, and bam, you're on it. You hit that submit button on your resume online, your Indeed or whatever, and you get it going, and then the next thing you know, you've got an interview. This could be that even though it's slow and there may be a delay in the things that you want to be happening right now, know that when that opportunity comes in, it will be quick moving energy, and you need